Welcome back. We continue live right here at Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani, Ron Cook, and you on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. Ron, I want to get your take on Vontaze Burfict. The NFL basically is not going to suspend him. They still likely will fine him, but I thought he deserved something, given his history mostly and what he did on Sunday.
I thought it was interesting. Joe Thomas, the Hall of Fame to be offensive tackle from the Cleveland who just retired, said on ESPN he should be suspended for the rest of the season. That may be a little bit harsh, but he's a repeat offender. The hit on Antonio was brutal. Elbow, and looked like it was absolute intent to hurt. And I didn't even see it during the game, but and Roethlisberger didn't see it either. But when he had the quarterback sneak that was whistled dead, he said he went home and was blown dead because the Steelers called timeout. He said he went home, his wife said, "Man, you dodged a bullet there. He was after your head." And Ben goes, "Really?" And he looked at the tape and he goes, "My goodness, I did dodge a bullet." So Burfict is trying to hurt people, there's no doubt. I don't know what the answer is. Fining him isn't going to do it. He's already been fined, I believe, a couple $100,000 over the years. It hasn't done any good. Suspend him again. See what happens.
I mentioned that to you Monday on the show. I told you that quarterback sneak.
I did not
see it. We were talking about his tackling technique, which is not very good. And it is put his head down and go after people, and he did that on the sneak, and it's lucky he didn't make contact. Let's go to the lines. We got Josiah in San Antonio. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Bob and Ron. Ron, I want to say I appreciate the picture and the time you took to talk to me on my father when we were up there.
I enjoyed it, Josiah.
Thanks a lot. I just want to say 2 points about Le'Veon Bell. What a liar and a fraud. I'll go back to the comments that he made before Labor Day, telling the offensive line he'll be there. He doesn't show up. Then he lies to Jeremy Fowler, saying he was going to come in today. Still no sight of him. And it's the Steelers in a lose-lose situation because you can't cut him because he'll go to New England or somewhere you don't want. You can't trade him. Nobody will take him off our hands.
Somebody might.
And, well, they were already saying that nobody's really going to give us.
Somebody gets desperate, Josiah. I'm telling you, if there's Jay Ajayi is already out for the Eagles, and if somebody else who's a contending team loses a big weapon, don't be surprised.
It better happen, though, pretty soon, Bob.
I know.
The trade deadline's like 2 weeks away.
I realize that, but it's 2 more weeks of play, injuries will occur. We'll see.
And I just want to make a quick point, too. These fans I've been hearing, we got James Conner, and he has better scrimmage yards than Le'Veon Bell. Let's not get misunderstood here. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is a lot better than Conner. I know the stats may prove otherwise, but you still got to hold on to him because if Conner goes down or something tragic like that happens, you still need to have insurance.
Sure.
What do you guys think?
Thanks.
Well, I'm a big Le'Veon fan. I don't like some of his antics during this being away from the team. But I said this on our show the other day, Bob, I don't know if you agree. All things considered, if everybody's healthy, okay, and Le'Veon's in shape, I think if they would start a playoff game, he will be the starting running back.
To me,
all things being they're healthy.
To me, it would be conditional based on his performance when he gets a chance to perform.
Right.
I'd have to see, and if Conner continues to do what he's doing, I'm not going to supplant him as my starter. He's going to have to earn his way back, and Conner may have to take a step back or two. Well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Marilyn and Munhall is up next. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good.
I was wondering who you think would be the natural person to step up to take Schultz's place on the line.
Well, I mean, they have a rookie here, Ricola, who played tonight. Oleksiak's back in there. Oli Mata has to play better. They also have Chad Rueda, who hasn't really even played.
This is a big loss, so there's no question. It's a big loss.
But he'll be back when they're critical games.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when they get to playoff time. But it's a big loss. I don't want to minimize that. Ollie's got to play better, and I'm a big Ollie fan. I don't think he's off to a great start. They sat Oleksiak the other night. Both of those guys were back. Ricola, they seem to really like. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the only one really playing well is the Letang-Dumoulin combination. Letang's been really good.
Yes, he has.
I've been impressed by Jack Johnson.
No. And I thought, all things considered, I expect a little bit more from him so far. What I do think about the Penguins, they're very sloppy right now. They're turning a puck over in bad areas. They're doing all the things that's going to drive a coach crazy.
Including Sullivan. Well, he said the first period tonight, he said, we basically self-inflicted wounds one after another.
That's what I mean.
And DeSmith played well to keep him into it early on.
Yeah, they gave up a lot of odd man breaks, and when they're going bad, that's what they do. Joel in Cannonsburg. Hey, Joel, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how are we doing tonight?
What's up?
Hey, talking about earning your way back onto the team, what do you think of Le'Veon playing special teams? earn his way back, return kicks, return punts?
No, I think they're happy with Switzer returning kicks. Yeah. Although I don't know that I like to see him bring that out the other day with 18 to go. He got to the 18-yard line.
If you're not sure you can get to the 25
you got to get to the 25. I mean, especially in a situation where you need a field goal to win. I didn't like that, but he's not going to be playing special teams. We even asked somebody, we asked Ben today, I've seen stuff on social media, well, you know, Le'Veon thinks he's a receiver, put him in the slot, keep Bell in the back, and Connor in the backfield. Ben goes, no, he's good in mismatches as a wide receiver. He's not better than a wide receiver to play every down.
Plus, it would change a lot of what they do, and I think there's too much accommodating him when he comes back. He's got to play what he plays.
And Ben today told us, we asked him, he said, I'm not even thinking about him coming back. I don't think the guys are. He said, you got to understand, he hasn't played football since January.
Right.
Ben said he thinks 3 or 4 weeks before he'll be able to help the team once he comes in.
That's logical, and that's why he doesn't start for me until he proves he can.
I didn't say right away, Bob, but I'm telling you, don't count him out.
I'm not counting him out. Let's go to Mike in Bethel Park. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Yeah, hey, guys. You look great. I want to backtrack, if I could, to March, I believe, when the United States Supreme Court legalized sports booking in the United States. I think the state's missing a great opportunity here where we can't drive to the meadows or rivers and put bets on over-unders on when Le'Veon Bell's coming back. They had preseason, week 1, week 16, or never at all. That's 17 prop bets they could have banked on. But secondly, have you heard of how that's coming along, or are we ever going to see sports booking in Pittsburgh?
I think you will. I don't know when.
It's going to take a
too much money at stake for not to come here, Bob. But I'm surprised it's taken this long. I thought they were going to be ready. You kind of knew this legislation was coming, and I thought they were going to be ready sooner than this. It'll be here sooner or later because there's too much money at stake.
I'll tell you what, if I had to make those prop bets, I would have lost every single one of them because I would have thought at the beginning of the season, I would have thought by now, who knows, maybe it's going to be none of the above. Maybe he's just not going to play this year, and some would advocate that he doesn't because you know the Steelers are not going to put up with this again, and they will release him at the end of this, I would think. Would he play that hand, do you think?
What, sit out all year?
Sit out all year.
Yeah, he'd lose $14.5 million.
He's already lost 6.
Well, that's a lot different than 14.5. I still think he's going to come back, but I thought he was going to be back on Labor Day. I really did.
Let's go to Brian in Uniontown first. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, good. I was just curious, why not let James Conner, if Le'Veon's in shape, let him learn a little bit this year, and being that he's probably going to be our back of the future.
Well, he's already learning. He's done pretty good learning.
He's number 5 in the NFL.
He doesn't look like he's failing his tests by any stretch. He's doing great. Now, can he keep doing it? Can he stay healthy? That remains to be seen. But, he's had, they played, 6 games? He's had 3 good ones, 3 not so good ones. Right. But the last 2 have just been dynamic. And I always remember, Bob, and I'm sure you remember, Jerome always said, yards are great, this is great, that's great. They pay me to score touchdowns. And Connor has 7 already in the first 6 games. That's pretty good.
What's also been pretty good is their offensive line. I went back today, Ron, had a chance to look at.
Ben didn't get hit, did he?
He got hit once, but it wasn't even big a hit. He never got sacked. And here's the thing. They opened gaping holes. Watching specifically DeCastro and Pouncey in this particular game, both were dominant in what they did.
And that's a great defensive line with Dunlap and Geno Atkins. Ben said it today. He said the only time he really got hit was when the tip pass ended up in his own arms and he got hit.
That's it. We're going to take a break here. We'll come back with more of your calls. It's 412-575-2600 right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.